All right. Oh, we need a backup camera this morning. There he is. How you doing, sugar?
Man, it's Monday and I'm off to make them Monday donuts.
Ooh, I haven't had breakfast yet. I could use a donut.
I also have not had breakfast. I'm doing Ramadan light. I'm doing intermittent fasting.
Well, l'chaim. Oh, okay. So let me look at the chat real quick. We got James Royster with us. Good morning. Good morning. Royster got a couple of good pictures for us at the event this weekend. Actually, I'll share those. One of those in a minute here. And Ma and Granddad are watching. That's Mom and the Sergeant Major, and we have a special guest viewing with Ma and Granddad. Robin is staying with us this weekend. We went fishing yesterday, and we didn't have a great day on the lake as far as catching fish. But let me tell you something. The worst day on the lake I ever had was great.
Yeah, still a day on the lake.
Damn right.
It's my worst day on the beach. Oh, darn, I'm still on the beach.
And so we put out catfishing traps, and we caught one fish. And when I say we, I mean Robin. So we're at Fish with Interesting People, and the interesting people caught the only fish we caught all day. Now, I almost caught a whopper. And, okay, fish story. Oh, it was this big. No, I caught a fish that was big, and I got my hands on a fish, on a trap that had a fish on the line that was big enough that it pulled me forward, gave me a good fight as I was trying to pull it up, and then the line broke on me, which is unfortunate, but shit happens. Earlier in the week, I caught a couple of pretty good-sized catfish, one that was particularly pretty, and I've got video for that's... Hopefully I'll be able to get that edited and out for you guys to see sometime this week, if not early next week. So James Royster says a bad day is a great day on the motorcycle. I think I can appreciate that, at least in spirit. I'm not a motorcycle guy. And Steve Rodemeyer says he's eating what seems to be a military surplus cherry Danish. So, Cameron, why don't you do the honors this morning and tell us what it is that we're talking about?
Well, we're talking about hypocrisy. We are talking about specifically hypocrisy in what the left refers to as violent speech. And probably the current biggest offender is Maxine Waters. And I have been disgusted by this woman, for over a decade now. She's the one that makes me nuts is whenever somebody plays the clip about I'm reclaiming my time like it's fingernails on a chalkboard. Don't interrupt me like that. I swear I'm gonna come over the counter and get arrested at the Capitol. But in this case, the lovely Maxine Waters has basically told the people of Minnesota, hey, why don't you just go ahead and get more violent? Which is a brilliant idea. I'm sure that won't get anybody hurt or killed at all.
Yeah, no. That's it blows my mind that somehow these lefties can find dog whistles and what he really meant by hold the door for the I held the door for the pretty lady because I'm a gentleman was, no, bitch, you're incompetent and can't do anything for yourself, so I will be put upon to do for you. Shut the hell up. But you can have these lefties go out there and they can not only say literally anything they want to, but they will make actual overt calls for violence. Let's not forget, before we even get into what we're talking about now, what was it, almost 3 years ago, we had Maxine Waters giving a speech to a large and rowdy crowd
And get up in their faces.
Get up in their faces. If you see them at a restaurant, at a gasoline station, you get out. You create a crowd. You create a disturbance, and you let them know that they're not welcome. Oh, really? But that's the line, huh? Oh, it's not the line. The line is being white and Republican. So,
and speaking just real quick, just talking about being white and Republican and that whole dog whistle thing, just as a point of comparison, let's take the demonstration at the Capitol from January. At one point in time, yes, Trump did say you have to fight like hell. You go back and you listen to Rudy's rhetoric. I mean, it was pretty emotionally charged stuff. But at the time they said what they said, there had not yet been any violence at the Capitol.
Or from the right at all.
Whereas by contrast, there's already been days of violence in Minneapolis. And now Maxine Waters is saying, oh, y'all need to dial it up. So when you talk about dog whistle, it's not even a dog whistle. She knows exactly what she's saying and exactly who she's saying it to. And she is no dummy. She is a smart woman. And she understands that she'll face no consequences, and all this will do is continue to give fodder for her side.
Well, I don't know how smart that is. I mean, to be a leftist and understand that you've been issued blanket immunity by the current government for acts up to and including terrorism, murder, and actual insurrection. It's axiomatic. You don't have to be real smart to recognize it. It's not that the lefties don't recognize that there's rampant hypocrisy and that what they're doing is not only actual violence but actively crime. It's that they understand the hypocrisy and are more than happy to take advantage of it.
Oh, yes, and even incite it. And their useful idiots are absolutely none the wiser.
Right.
It's an evil thing that they do.
And like, this is something that I was actually talking with Robin about yesterday briefly. Make no mistake, the riots, none of these riots are concerned in the least with the concept of justice. They don't care that a black man was killed by a police officer or any of that, right? We've gone over the litany. We've examined the histories of the people that they choose to be their public faces and to be their sacrificial lambs. All your martyrs are monsters. We've gone down this repeatedly. Lies like the idea that Jacob Blake was just murdered, like a cop just ran up on him and shot him 7 times in the back for no reason at all. That's a bald-faced lie. The man was in the middle of committing several crimes when the police were called because of crimes that he had committed in the past to deal with the violation of a restraining order, and he was shot while attacking police officers with a weapon in the midst of attempting to steal a woman's car and kidnap her children. I'm sorry, he doesn't get the martyr tag as far as I'm concerned. That is not an innocent victim by any stretch of the imagination. Now, when you look at the riots that happen, it is not that the news breaks, some terrible injustice was done, and the people are outraged about the doing of injustice and demanding that justice should be applied and found and sought for these victims. That's not what happens. What happens is a media which is complicit and interested in the generation of bleeding lead lines takes their big flag that says there's free stuff here if enough bad people will gather and steal it by force. And then from around the world, the tourist rioting looters fly in to loot and destroy. They're not interested in justice. They're interested in Jordans.
Well, and conflict. There's two there's two layers to it. Yes, there are some who are just interested in the free stuff. Sublime, from their self-titled album, has actually got a song that really expresses the point very well. But there's the other side of it. They're also interested in conflict because they keep us divided. They get to remain in power. And, I'm talking about what Andrew Cuomo said in relation to all this really illustrates that point, because he says a terribly offensive thing, and it's okay for him, even though it's an absolutely divisive statement, right?
Right. You're talking about when Cuomo's over the weekend said gun control won't happen until white people's kids start getting killed. Okay, Cuomo, let me help you a little bit here. You seem to have a fundamentally flawed understanding of my motivations, at least, and likely by extension the motivations of many conservatives. I don't want my children to be killed, and I don't want gun control. Two things can be true at the same time. I promise you, if you kill my children in service of your narrative, no God will keep you safe.
Yeah, I mean, that does sound vaguely threatening to me as well. And, oh, yeah, by the way, can I just point out, I don't want black children to be killed either. I don't want anybody to be killed. I'd prefer it just stop happening. But we live in a world where sometimes bad things do happen. And look, I'm sorry that the 13-year-old got killed. I really am. But he was running around at 2 o'clock in the morning, carrying a gun, doing some gangster shit.
We live in a world where criminals use children to commit crimes so that they can capitalize on the law taking a softer stance on the prosecution of children.
So, and for that, I don't even want adults to get killed. I
You're
really
talking
don't.
about
I realize.
You're going to talk about a gun control loophole.
Well played, sir. I didn't even think you were going to take it there. But yeah, so it's completely okay for Andrew Cuomo to say such a terrible thing. And nobody says Andrew Cuomo's a racist. Though I got to tell you, that man's number might be up. I think the left is about to turn on him. But then you've got Maxine Waters deliberately calling for more violence. And don't give me this. No, that's not what she meant. Like, if you can hear dog whistles in the things that we say, I can totally hear dog whistles in the things that y'all say. And I think your interpretation about taking what Cuomo said as kind of a vague threat is an accurate interpretation. Because, I mean, my thought was, wait a minute, whose white children are going to die so that now suddenly white people will take gun control seriously? Because even taking the issue of gun control and framing it on race is another point of division.
Yes.
Like there are white people that want gun control, and there are black people that want to own guns.
And to your point, people like Cuomo, I don't know about Cuomo's kids, how old they are, what level of education they're at, but people in that class, you haven't seen a mass shooting at one of their schools. And there's a big difference between the private schools that people at Cuomo's level use and the public schools that the rest of you who are fool enough not to be homeschooling right now use. And that key difference, that key reason that you see mass shootings in public schools and not expensive private schools, it's not complicated. It's armed security. It's, if I'm not putting too fine a point on it, men with guns, good guys with guns. A black hat is only stopped by a white hat.
That's correct. Though, there is one small piece of good news to come out of this. And once again... Okay,
hold on. Before you get to that, I brought up a Twitter thread where Liz Wheeler mentions the the comments, Rep Maxine Waters to BLM rioters, we've got to stay on the street and get more confrontational. Chris Cuomo, gun control won't happen until white people's kids start getting killed. Tell me more how Trump incites violence. No, the idiots encouraging violence are leftists. And I want to run down a couple of the responses, right? This that she put out, it's a little milquetoast. It's just okay, I'm going to quote two bad people that said bad things and then make a partisan statement, which is fine, a little milquetoast. But then we get the replies like this guy. Why do you call BLM rioters? They haven't rioted anything. Get you facts right before you start labeling folks. Okay, so Darren, you need a copy editor or a basic education. I'm sorry, you somehow, Darren, in a world where a basic education that includes limited rhetoric and language skills, and what I'm assuming based on your profile picture and use of the language is your first and only language, and somehow you managed to dodge that. It was free, dickhead. Go learn to read.
To be fair, it's probably just a typo.
No, it's not. But why do you call BLM rioters? They haven't rioted anything. Cameron, he says they haven't rioted anything. It's not a typo. He's just not smart.
Yeah, no, I'm tracking. His grammar's terrible.
But the statement, the sentiment there that that BLM wasn't responsible for any violence, that's uncontrovertibly counterfactual. You're making a statement which is untrue, which is demonstrably untrue. Darren, you're not just an illiterate, you're an illiterate liar. Go away. So, insurrectionists were stupid enough to listen and actually follow through. Okay, this guy says, maybe so. It also shows that only the right-wing insurrectionists were stupid enough to listen and actually follow through. I seem to remember more than a half dozen autonomous zones. Rutgers fan, you're an idiot. And I'm not going to get into that anymore on that comment because there's another one that I wanted to hit. Add in the fact that Democrats are deliberately and actively trying to diminish the possibility and possibly revoke our ability. Okay, Huskertwood is correct. The Democrats are trying to take your guns. If I'm not mistaken, this guy Fafadon says, if I'm not mistaken, most of the victims in mass shootings were white, mainly the school shootings. That is correct. So, this guy, Scott D, apparently you don't read the news, right? It's one thing to say that, unlike me, you don't read the news, at least as a passing hobby or for a living, but you clearly don't read it at all. You're just completely uninformed. Cuomo was talking about police reform. He was making a point that police reform won't happen unless police start killing white people's kids. You say that like calling on people to murder people is justified by complaining about people that you say are murdering people, whether or not it's true that the police are hunting and killing people for no good reason. You're making your statement as if, assuming the truth of that condition, it is acceptable to call for the killing of other people as some sort of panacea to the problem that you seem to perceive that exists. Quite separately from the incontrovertible fact that this epidemic of police violence and brutality and unjustified killing is a non-existent thing. Completely separate from that, you're making an argument here that the solution to the problem is killing people who are not related to the problem.
Well, and besides, that is such a stupid response to issue. It says right there, gun control won't happen until white people start having their children die. It does not say police reform won't happen until white people start having their children die. Like, Cuomo was talking about something else entirely. No, he wasn't. He said what he meant to say.
And he said the thing that you're saying. And then this guy goes on to say, because, in all caps, black people kids are being gunned down. Jesus Christ, people, read a book. Or hire a copy editor. Come on, man. Come on. Black people kids are being gunned down by police at an alarming rate. Name 2. Okay, I'm done waiting.
That's it.
Even when they follow orders like hands up. False, false, false. You're a damn liar. And then there's another one. I may have to go too far down looking for it to find it again. Oh, nope, here it is. Perfect. This Revan Vicious. This tweet illustrates another problem, a huge problem that we have with the proliferation of the narrative across the enemy. The people who voted for Joe Biden still believe things like the claim that Donald Trump said all Mexicans are rapists and murderers. Demonstrably false. That is a demonstrably false claim. We've gone over how these claims are demonstrably false. We've shown the clips. We've gone into it and debunked them directly. I'm going to mention them. I'm not going to relitigate them right now. But the claim that Donald Trump said all Mexicans are rapists and murderers is a false claim. It is a lie. And when I say it is a lie, what I mean is a person cannot have viewed the source material and drawn that conclusion in good faith. If a person has viewed the full source material on any of these claims and then espoused the conclusion that is made by the headlines, they are lying. They are not committing an error. They're committing a fraud, not an error. So the rapists and murderers, false. They're all animals. False. That he made calls for violence on the 6th. False. The very fine people on both sides. False. And if you repeat any of those statements after having viewed the source material, you are a liar. An absolute liar. And then this guy comes along and says, in case you forgot, a pro-Trump mob stormed the Capitol, attempted to hang the vice president, and killed a police officer, all based on a lie from a con artist. Every fact claim made in this statement is false, with the possible exception of the sentence fragment here.
Yeah.
A pro-Trump mob stormed the U.S. Capitol. Okay. I will grant that statement is a subjective opinion statement. But it, as a matter of statements of fact, attempted to hang the vice president. False. Didn't happen. And killed a police officer. That statement is so incredibly false. Before the headlines reported it, it was clear that it was a false statement. Some of the headlines reported that the officer had been murdered by an attacker who hit him in the head with a fire extinguisher before he was even dead. And then he died a few days later of a heart attack. There is no video footage of a fire hydrant hitting him. The autopsy showed no blunt force trauma to his head. The cause of death was an unrelated heart attack. And killed a police officer? Okay, this Revan Vicious is some random guy on Twitter, so I'm not going to call him a liar. I think it's more likely he's an idiot. I think it's more likely that he has been lied to and is regurgitating a lie. And then the final line he has here, all based on a lie from a con artist. The claim that the president lied about amphibious priapisms is a false claim. If you say that Donald Trump lied about the amphibious priapisms, you're making a false claim. it is not reasonable to believe that Donald Trump believed his claims in this regard to be false, most especially when those claims were made prior to any adjudication. And I mean any adjudication. The majority of the claims that Trump made about a frog that needs to go and see his doctor because he's been aroused for too long, the majority of any of those claims that he made were before the court cases had even been dismissed on, let's face it, mostly weak and tenuous procedural grounds. So to say that he did not believe what he said and therefore was lying about the claims he made is not reasonable to believe. I still maintain that no one can say with certainty. You can believe what you want to believe, but no one can say with certainty, because given a mountain of evidence, none of it was ever adjudicated, that they know one way or the other whether the situation was handled honestly. I'm trying to be very careful and keep this particular show on YouTube, because that's not the topic in particular. And so I hope I've made my point, and I hope I've gotten a couple of chuckles talking about frog dicks. And I think that's enough digging through the Twitter for now. Let me get to the shining bright spot in this. And Cameron, since I cut you off of it earlier and asked you to let us bring it up, I'm gonna bring up the article and I'll let you go ahead and introduce it.
Oh, you'll allow me?
Since she is your rep.
Yeah, you'll allow me. That's mighty kind of you, sir.
Well,
anyhow.
Look, dickhead. Okay. Tell us a story.
Well, here's the story. Marjorie Taylor Greene is my representative. I live in her district, and she has introduced a resolution to basically say, "Screw you, Maxine Waters. Take your ball and go home."
To expel her from Congress.
Yeah. Now, obviously, it's not going to go anywhere. In a sane world, it would, because that is such a gross mismanagement of her power. Like, if you're a congressman, you have power. You have a lot of power. And to tell people, nah, it's cool, go riot. Like, that is awful. If Donald Trump had done anything anywhere close to that, either one of his impeachments would have been successful. He would have been removed from office. Donald Trump was not removed from office because he didn't do anything this bad. He didn't do anything halfway this bad. So, yeah, it is the shining bright spot. But here's the problem, okay? Republicans are real good at doing shit like this when they're in the minority. But then when the Republicans actually have power, do we repeal gun control laws? Do we simplify regulation? Do we simplify the tax code? Do we repeal unnecessary laws? Do we combine together redundancies in agencies? With the exception of Donald Trump, no, we do not. So while I love you, Marjorie, you crazy as hell, but you my kind of crazy, and I love it. Are you going to keep this up when the Republicans take the House back?
You know, I think she might.
She might. Yeah, no, she might. But the point is,
and apart from some of the QAnon crap that she let herself get wrapped up in, and even that, I'm willing to excuse some of that, because, like we've talked about on the show before, that whole I'm not going to say that word again, but that whole conspiracy theory chain, I'm pretty certain, based on my experience, which is substantial, that was an active black propaganda campaign that was very, credit where it's due, it was very well executed. That was a very effective black propaganda campaign. Now, let me, I've got some quotes from her statement. In a statement emailed to Newsweek, Green's office said she announced plans to expel Waters, quote, after the California Congresswoman invited Black Lives Matter domestic terrorists to fire gunshots at National Guardsmen in Minnesota. As a sitting United States Congresswoman, Rep. Maxine Waters threatened a jury demanding a guilty verdict and threatened violence if Chauvin is found not guilty. This is also an abuse of power. That's not just an abuse of power. And Maxine Waters does not enjoy the immunity that is granted to congresspersons when they're speaking on the floor for these statements, because they were made in public to public. And this is not just a call for violence, right? Like we were saying, we don't have to dig into the dog whistles for a call for violence, but specifically, this is racketeering. This is nice store you got. Shame if anything was to happen to it. But
I know a guy for $50 a week who'll make sure nothing ever happens to your store.
Yep. So, yeah, if you give me the verdict I won't burn your city down, is the statement that Maxine Waters has just made. Hey, Zaluska's alive! L'chaim! All right. And, and he's also so late that you've basically missed the show, because we've been on for 35 minutes. That's about what we've got.
Just a quick question to go out on. Is Marjorie Taylor Greene a rising star, or is she grasping at straws and she's going to basically be the right-wing equivalent of AOC and just not going to get very far? A nice public figure, but not effective in the way that, say, maybe like a Ted Cruz is actually effective in shaping policy.
That's a good question. I think it's too early to tell for sure. At present, I think she has the potential to be a combination of all of AOC's best skills at the manipulation of social media for brand building and message spreading, coupled possibly with Cruz's extent of conservatism. And I see a lot of noise so far. I don't know if she has the functional political acumen to be as effective as Cruz could be. But at the same time, when you look at Ted Cruz, I like Cruz, I do. He talks a good game. But just like we were saying about Republicans generally, the best we can ever hope for from a Republican as a rule is that they will obstruct the growth of the government as is. What we have not seen, even from people like Ted Cruz, is work to roll back the growth of the government, work to eliminate bureaucratic redundancies, work to restore illicitly hampered gun rights. They don't take actions to protect unborn babies. They make a lot of hay about it. But if you want to see your rights protected, you want to see your children protected, the only place you're seeing that happen really is with Republicans at state levels and to a lesser degree at some smaller municipality levels. You're seeing sheriffs come out and say, I will not enforce any gun laws that come from this administration. That's refreshing, but it's insufficient.
Yeah, probably the biggest shining example of this is the Trump White House combined with the Paul Ryan Congress. Obamacare should have been dead. That should have been it. If nothing else was accomplished in that first 2 years of Trump being president, that should have been it. But
yeah,
it
should have.
But it didn't happen because, for whatever reason, I think it's the Republican version of what Democrats do.
Well, And understand what McCain did there.
Poor people and
what McCain did there is a beautiful demonstration of why there is only one crime listed and detailed in the Constitution. Article 3, Section 3, the definitions, prosecutorial steps, and treatment of treason. Right? It's the only crime that's mentioned in the Constitution. If we were to repeal all law except for the Constitution itself, then the only thing that would be a crime would be treason or the active repression of individual civil liberties or rights.
Yeah. Anyhow, it's just like the Democrats dangle a carrot but never quite let their side get it. Now, this is, I think, the equivalent to our side. It's the carrot they dangle. No, next time we really will shrink government. And then they don't.
Yeah, they run on solving problems they created. Basically, they dangle a carrot that you can never reach. And if you ever do finally get a bite of that carrot, you'll find out that it's actually a turd that's been painted orange.
That's disgusting.
They're Democrats.
But we're over, buddy. We are, in fact, over our time.
Yeah, well. All right, well, that's the show for today. Thanks for tuning in and watching, guys. We love you. Y'all be safe out there. We'll see you tomorrow. Hey, wait. Okay. I haven't decided what we're talking about tomorrow yet, so leave some comments under this video. Give me some ideas. Y'all want to get back into some UFOs and stuff tomorrow, maybe? Give me some ideas. Maybe we'll talk about space elevators. Or maybe Maxine Waters will go and run off at the mouth again and give us our content for tomorrow. So as we're doing show prep today, y'all leave some comments under the video, not just in the live chat, under the video itself. I'll go back and check them throughout the day, and maybe that'll help inform tomorrow's show.
Or Matt Gaetz, that would be interesting.
I may be a little busy today, so I don't know if I'll have time to do the research to talk about Matt Gaetz intelligently, but I don't have to sleep tonight, so we'll see what happens. So, yeah. Love you.
All right.
Deuces.
Later.